ever tired of the story of David and Goliath. And you can call me the typical boy if you want to, and that'd be okay with me. But 1 Samuel chapter 17, story of David and Goliath. And I'm going to ask you to read on your own down to at least the 40th verse, and then we'll pick up there and read verses 40 through 47. No wonder that didn't look right. I was in 1 Samuel. That's what I said, though, wasn't it? 1 Samuel 17. Okay. 1 Samuel 17, read the first 40 verses at least of that and get you some background. This is the story of David and the Goliath, the giant. In verse 40, then he took his staff in his hand and he chose for himself 5 smooth stones from the brook and put them in a shepherd's bag in a pouch which he had, and his sling was in his hand, and he drew near to the Philistine. David here is a younger fellow. I don't know exactly how young he is, but he is a younger fellow. Of course, this would be before he, of course, became or was anointed as king. I tried to find, it was interesting, I tried to find how old David was when he died, and I never did find it. The only thing I could, a couple of Bible dictionaries had that he died at 70 or 71, and we know that he served 40 years as king and run from Saul, tried to stay out of his way for several years. And so then Josephus, a Jewish historian, said that he died around 70, but here again didn't give a chapter and verse, and to me that I'll have to find out other ways maybe. But evidently he's a young man here, a shepherd. He's number 8 he's the 7th living son, but he's number 8 as far as children is concerned. And if you read the background, you'll find that his dad has sent him down to check on the brothers. Now, 3 of his older brothers are in the army of Saul, and Saul is the army of Saul has gained up on one side and the Philistines on the other. And Goliath has come out and said, "Hey, send a man to fight me, and whichever one of us lose, that nation will have to serve us." Well, and then of course we read where that's a lie, of course. But David at the instigation of Saul, the king, tries on a uniform, and of course it don't fit, and so we see here that in verse 40 that David uses his own uniform, being who he was. So the Philistine, in verse 41, so the Philistine came and began drawing near to David, and the man who bore the shield went before him. So, here's a couple of warriors out here facing this young man, or this young man facing a couple of warriors. And when the Philistine looked about and saw David, he disdained or belittled for he was only a youth, ruddy and good looking. And it's interesting that the biblical writer includes these things. Verse 43, so the Philistine said to David, am I a dog that you come to me with sticks? And the Philistine cursed David by his gods. And the Philistine said to David, come to me, and I'll give your flesh to the birds of the air and the beasts of the field. And then David said to the Philistine, you come to me with a sword, with a spear, and with a javelin. But I come to you in the name of the Lord of hosts, the God of the armies of Israel, whom you have defied. This day the Lord will deliver you into my hand, and I will strike you and take your head from you. And this day I will give the carcasses of the camp of the Philistines to the birds of the air and the wild beasts of the earth, that all the earth may know that there is a God in Israel. The title of the message this evening is Giants Are Not Always Obstacles. Giants are not always obstacles. This guy is 9.5 foot tall. I don't even make it to 6 foot. But this guy is at least 3.5 foot. I mean, it'd take you'd have to move the yardstick up 6 inches to get his height from 6 foot. 9.5 foot. This is one tall dude. He's a big dude, too. And in front of him, he'd want a big man, wouldn't he? As big as he could find. We don't know how much this guy would weigh. But we're looking at close to 500 pounds. Obstacles can become opportunities. Now, the title of the message is Giants Are Not Always Obstacles, but obstacles are not always problems. They can become opportunities, can't they? In these first 39 verses, this gives us this background and the picture of the situation. It's interesting to see how God arranges things to bring people to the place for Him to use them to bring glory to His name. No doubt many of us can look back, and it's easier to look back because hindsight is 20/20, as the saying goes, and it is true. We can look back and see how God put things in our way. And if it bumped into things, and some of you have got those things perhaps. So I go over there and I moving my feet to where I get it headed to the stairway. And this is the way that God works. He moves us around, sometimes in little increments, sometimes in a major move. But He moves things around in our life in order to get us to where we can and will bring glory to His name. David's 3 older brothers are in the army. Their dad wants to know how they're doing. So he sends David to take some dried fruit and things like that, about a 5-gallon bucket full to the brothers, and then he has some, the Bible just says, cheeses to King Saul. See, that kind of bought him permission to check on the brothers. It's one of those political moves that's made. And while David, when the problem, this guy and this kind of thing, but let's look at some facts. Youth, whatever his age is, I'm thinking in the early 20s perhaps, be considered a youth at that point. Here's a king, and here's his army in battle array. They're all dressed up. They're all in position, but they're afraid. And a concerned father, an arrogant and a boastful enemy, challenging the armies of Israel. Here's a a shepherd who's been tending sheep for a while. The bear attempted to scatter the herd. The lion attempted to maul. He killed them both because God strengthened him, and he could, and he did. He was there as the shepherd. He was there to protect the sheep. And David just sees this guy as that kind of guy. He's a foe, and he's large, but he's not larger than God. David sees him as he really is, an obstacle that is an opportunity. You see, often age doesn't make the difference. The difference, the God of Israel. You see, in those days, nations had their own gods. And it was kind of like saying, you know, my dad's bigger than your dad, or my God is bigger than your God. My God can whoop your God. This kind of thing. That was the thinking. Every land had its God. Remember, it was Naaman, wasn't it? The leper that was healed. And if you remember, he goes into Elisha and he says, well, if you won't take anything, then give me a couple of mule loads of dirt so I can take back. And what he was doing, he was using a very, well, it was a atheistic kind of thinking. He says, you know, by taking a couple loads of dirt from Israel back to Syria, then, I mean, we must deal very much with God, but God deals with people. And God is all about people. That's His business. That's the only business He's in. We can build fancy buildings. We can have large budgets. We can build the best of everything, or church plan, if you please. But God is in the people business. It doesn't matter whether it's a metal roof, a shingle roof, or a tree that someone is allowed to grow. He's in the people business. And David here sees this giant as an obstacle to the work of God, to the name of God. So David says, hey, I'll take care of him. I'll take care of him. His brothers mocked him. Saul offered his uniform, which of course didn't fit. But the thing of it is, Saul is willing to see this young man die. Saul's willing to send him out. Saul, yeah, he's the first king, and God chose him, but his attitude never changed. It was all about me. David couldn't wear the uniform. Couldn't wear the traditional armor. But he chose to be himself. In verse 40, then he took his staff in his hand. It's his stick. It's his walking stick. And he chose for himself 5 smooth stones from the brook. I don't know what he's going to do with 4 of them. He didn't need it with 1. But he loaded it all, didn't he? And put them in a shepherd's bag, in a pouch which he had. He was, and his sling was in his hand. These are the things that he was, God is willing to use you and me, whatever our giftedness may be, whatever our talents may be. He's willing to use us if we will avail ourselves to Him. That's a simple biblical truth illustrated right here in the life of a young man that's come out from the backwoods taking care of a bunch of sheep. It's interesting, isn't it? David chose to confront the obstacle as he had done other obstacles in the past. What are some giants in our lives? How about the giant of health? It's a fact, isn't it? We don't get healthier, we get less healthy, right? I get sore in places I didn't even know I had places sometimes, you know? I mean, I'm feeling the effects. How about finances? That's a biggie today, and looks like it might even be bigger. Jobs? That's very important. Giants could be even other people. What are we going to do? What are we going to do with... What am I going to do about... And we are concerned. Something I said, or something they said, or something that wasn't said or done, or whatever. How are we going to take care of this whatever problem? How about a fear of failure? We don't want to fail. We don't want to, in front of friends and family and neighbors and all that. How about public speaking? Man, that's I read somewhere here not too long ago that was the #1 phobia in the United States. Well, I can understand that. What about the giant of... That's a stumbling block, isn't it? That can really be a giant to us. We convince ourselves and then turn around and try to convince others that we can't. When so often, really, if we told the truth, it would be, I won't. Giants in our land. What to do when these giants come up in our lives? Well, consider the situation and acknowledge it as it is. Honesty is the best policy in confronting giants, you know? Just being honest. Man, I've got a problem. I bit off more than I can chew. I don't know about you, but... I went to work one Monday morning with both my eyes black because I bit off more than I could chew. But I wore them with pride, though. Or I thought. It's easy to get ourselves in trouble, isn't it? It really is. So, whatever the situation is, don't deny it. Don't ignore it. It doesn't help. But name the problem. Name the giant. Consider it as that's the way it is, and then admit it and confess it and talk to the Lord about it. Now, while that sounds simple, that is about as profound as I think it gets. Talk to the Lord about it. Lord, I'm having trouble. I'm having trouble getting along with him or her, or whatever, whoever it may be. Lord, I'm having trouble with this job, or whatever it may be. Whatever the thing of it is, we see it as a giant. We see it as larger than we are, and we wonder about what we're going to do with it. Well, giants are not always obstacles. They can be opportunities, can't they? Brother Jason talks about our church field. I think he even mentioned it this morning. It is a large church field because it begins at the doorstep here and reaches around the world. That's pretty big, isn't it? To me it is. One of the reasons I'm glad to be a Southern Baptist is the sun never sets on the preaching of the gospel among Southern Baptist missionaries. They're around the world. And every time we give a dollar, we invest in God's work around the world. I'm glad to be a part. But as we see these things that come up, yes, that's a big world. That's a big mission field. But we deal with it. We deal with it by walking out that door and giving ourselves, availing ourselves to the Lord. Now, that doesn't mean that you may be sent to Africa. It doesn't mean you may be sent to Brazil or Doesn't mean you may be sent to inner city work. It just may mean that you need to talk with that coworker of yours about the Lord. Or the guy or the gal across the backyard fence, or that neighbor, whatever. Yes, it's a big mission field. It's a giant. And then another way to deal with these giants is to walk over and say, brother, a sister, I'm having difficulty, and you may or may not be able to explain why. But will you pray for me? I've got an interview in the morning at 10, or whatever the case. I don't know what it is, or I've got an appointment tomorrow at 11 o'clock, or whatever it may be. We see it as a giant. We see it as an obstacle. We see it as a wall, as a barrier. Whatever it is. Asking someone to intercede for you is a good thing to do. Because prayer works.
Amen.
I'm here today because God answered prayers of some folks, and some of you folks right here tonight. And I know that. But don't try to be artificial about the thing, trying to deny it or ignore it, hoping it'll go away. Armor that doesn't work and won't fit is not good for us. It'll hinder us. Be ourselves. Don't try to be artificial. And then do the childlike thing of just simply inviting the Lord to help. Well, that's profound, isn't it? That's profound. That's deep. That's childlike. But man, how deep that goes. Just invite God to get involved. You see, obstacles give God an opportunity to show Himself strong in our lives. I like 2 Chronicles 16:9. I hope you have it highlighted in your Bible. For the eyes of the Lord run to and fro throughout the whole earth to show Himself strong on behalf of those whose heart is loyal to Him. 2 Chronicles 16:9. And it's just a biblical truth that doesn't know any limitation as far as time and age is concerned. Invite Him to get involved in this story. Who's the victim? It's certainly not David, is it? He's the victor. Well, what made the difference? Surely wasn't the size. Wasn't the armor. I mean, a stick and a rock and a string with a leather pouch on it. That's a sling. They still use them today in third world countries. Just a long string of leather with a pouch about, well, they can be different sizes, but they're about as a 6x6 or something there for a pouch in the middle. And they learn to put a rock in there and get her to going around and around. It's 3 or 4 feet long, or ever how long they are, and they swing them around. They get them. I mean, guys pitch baseballs now at 90 miles an hour. This is stronger than a pitching of a baseball. What made the difference? Same thing, and I don't mean to be negative here at all about God, but it's the same thing that made the difference in David's situation. It will make the difference in our situation, and that's inviting God to get involved. Yeah, there's nothing wrong with a prayer request. Nothing wrong at all. Give God a chance to work right here and right now. Solution. Yeah, I understand the turning of the calendar and the new year and all that. I do that, and sometimes I feel I've quit making New Year's resolutions because I fail too often. You know, I go gung ho till March or April or summer's in there, and then I fall to the wayside on things. So I just stay away from New Year's resolutions. But that doesn't mean I don't try again. I just don't state them and all that kind of thing. But why do we have to wait? Why do we have to wait till some other time to give God a chance to work? It may be too late for whatever He's got in mind for us. You see, David's father wanted to know about his three sons, the oldest three, the oldest three. He wanted to know about them. Typical dad, huh? Yeah, we went to Atlanta to see the grandchildren a few weeks ago, but I told Linda, I said, I want to see Micah too. That's the difference in that boy and all those other boys. That's my boy. You know? I'm concerned about him. And that's the way we are. He was concerned about his boys. So, the best one to send would be another